this will be the last Euro 2020 programme on Gadsby's England. It's been a long, long month. We've run over 3 days. It was very tough the other day with Carlos, of course, and Carlos was actually remarkably calm and reflective, whereas I was just a bit in pieces. So I thought tonight let's get the Goldsters on, because they've been with me as well since the beginning of this. Don't go as far back as Carlos, but they're sort of part of the show structure, if you will. They've always been there, and they've always been faithful and loyal to Gadsby's England. So, I think we end with those. And we have a bit of hindsight now on England, and maybe we can see a little bit more clearly into the game and what happened and where England go from here. Should we roll them one more time? Enjoy the opening credits one more time. We'll be back with the Goldsters.
Where's your famous? Where's your famous? Where's your famous atmosphere? Where's your
welcome to the final show. These will soon be gone. These will soon be gone, the Euro. But what an amazing tournament. Let's bring in the Goldster. Let's bring in Goldster Senior first of all, and see if we can smoothly bring them in both, because I can disappearing again. Goldster, are you there? There he is, number one. How are you, Nick?
How am I? Not great.
No, I think that describes both of us. All right, well, we've got you. Can we bring in younger brother?
Do we have to?
He'll keep us, disciplined and on song. So let's bring him in.
Are you the new German manager? You look a bit like him.
I wanted to do that just to cheer you up, Nick. Oh, here he is. He's at 90 degrees, but hello, Goldster Junior. Hello, Dion. There
How
we
you
go.
doing?
That's better. It's a nice background you've got there, mate. That's the good-looking boys pad.
Muhammad Ali. You see that?
Oh, yeah.
The Thriller in Manila.
Very nice, mate. Can everybody see each other?
Yeah.
I can see Nick now.
Okay. Can you see me when I speak?
Now you.
Yeah, okay. So we're seeing the active speaker, which is, I think, pretty similar. But when we go into active speaking mode, that should change. But I'll ask you the same thing as I asked your kid, your older one, is how are you feeling right now?
Still a little bit numb and a little bit sore, and can't quite believe we haven't done it. So yeah, it's a hard pill to swallow at the moment. I think it'll take a bit of time. Luckily, we've got the new season kicking off not too long, which is good.
Yeah, for you that's good, but for us, for my lot, not that bothered about club football. I mean, no, I know.
It's something to occupy my mind. Something to take my mind off it.
And you've got
my club team.
And you've got one of the players of the tournament to enjoy.
We do. Our Calvin, yeah,
Calvin. But all right. Well, I've been thinking about it for 3 days. I think the day after was probably not the time to really kind of come on here and reflect. But let's start with you, Goldster. Nick, I mean, where was this game? Where England were ahead, and where did they, I'm not going to say lost it because it went to penalties, but where did they kind of lose some control of it?
They lost control of it after their game plan, after probably 15, 20 minutes, was just to sit back and allow the Italians to come and attack them, which is what they were doing. And I think we kind of got out-battled a little bit in central midfield. I'm not saying the two central midfielders were poor or anything. They were great, but I just thought that they kind of got overrun a little bit, and Italy came at us. Even though we were comfortable in the first half, they still came at us, and it was just a question of how long it was going to keep going on for before they equalised. And everybody who knows football and was watching that game knew that they were going to equalise at some point because of the way we were playing. We just didn't go for that second goal. We just sat back and soaked up the heat. And we did. And don't get me wrong, the defenders, our central defenders and fullbacks were brilliant. I mean, the defence was absolutely magnificent. Everything the Italians threw at us, we just dealt with. But there's only so long you can go on doing that. And it just got to that point whereby there was an equaliser coming, and it did. And it was a very lucky. It was always going to take either a free kick or a very, very lucky goal to get an equaliser, because they couldn't really score properly in open play, which was proved. So just going back to your original question, when did we kind of go off the boil? I think it was kind of what you said, was go off the boil, something like that. It was literally probably, we started seeing signs of it after the first 20 minutes. Although, like I say, the first half we didn't play bad at all. We played pretty well. It was just the second half. It then got to that point whereby we just weren't attacking. We didn't create hardly any chances, and don't get me wrong, Italy weren't particularly great. They were there for the taking. They weren't a great Italian side. They weren't any better than we were. Even though we weren't great, they weren't that much better. They just seemed to have more possession and seemed to control the game more in midfield.
Yeah. Dion, yet again, England score early against the top side and end up going out, or they didn't go out, or losing the overall game. This is 4 or 5 times it's happened. And why does this keep happening?
I don't know. I mean, sometimes, like we were saying earlier on, that it can sometimes work against you if you go up 1-0 up that early on. It's great. I mean, we want to get the 1-0 lead, fairly early, but it could have been, detrimental maybe to them. They thought maybe, we'll hold that 1-0 lead and we won't go at them. And, that's what happened. We didn't go at them, and we should have gone at them because they were a bit bamboozled, the Italians. They were. And so when you go 1-0 down that early, especially in a final, if it would have happened to England, we would have been bamboozled. And then you'd expect Italy to come at us while we're wounded and naive, a bit naive. And we didn't do that. And I thought that was a chance to really go get the second goal. Is pretty much while we've got that bit of control. Because the first 10, 15 minutes, we did look pretty good. And then
we had chances. I mean, it
just stopped then.
A remarkable similarity to the Croatia game, which is that, we scored within the first 5 minutes in that game as well. Another spectacular goal. And Croatia equalised almost exactly the same time. With it 67 minutes, with Croatia, it was 68, Dion.
Yeah. So again, it's game management. You've got that early 1 lead, and should we have learned from the semi-final? Well, we should have done, because like you say, we've gone 1-0 up very early on, and look what's happened. We've let the lead slip in pretty much the 68th minute, and they haven't learned from it. And Southgate was the manager then, and he was the manager the other night. So it's down to game management. Put it this way: if it would have been the other way around, and the Italians were 1-0 up early, they would have won that game 1-0, if not by more. They would have held on. Yeah,
I mean, that's great. And give some credit to Mancini as well for changing his tactics, making those substitutions. I mean, he's a brilliant manager. He's proof throughout the tournament. He's got his tactics spot on.
Exactly. And you can't, just because you're winning 1-0 doesn't mean you don't have to change it. You can change it.
Yeah.
I'm sure if we were 1-0 down, Southgate would have started tinkering and changing tactics. Obviously, Mancini felt he needed to because he was 1-0 down. But
Yeah.
even when you're 1-0 up, you still can change it. You don't have to keep the same formation and the same players. And I think Southgate was a bit too cautious, maybe.
Nick,
didn't go for it.
Picking up on that point, Nicky, where do you see that Southgate got his tactics wrong? Do you think he should have been bolder in the second half, or do you see another way that he got them wrong?
He completely got it wrong. I mean, you know, he's playing that kind of five, you know, that kind of very defensive-minded kind of five at the back. All right, going forward with the fullbacks, with the wing-backs, or whatever you want to call it. But he got the formation. I thought he got the formation wrong. And then what seemed to be happening was we instead of playing the way we normally play, where we're getting the balls down the channels and getting wingers like Sterling and Trippier, or whoever it was on those flanks down to the bylines and trying to beat those defenders. We weren't doing that. All we were doing a lot of the time was spraying the ball around at the back, going backwards like we normally do. And then, but instead of going down those channels, we were pumping the ball long to Kane, who had two men on him every time, which was Chiellini or whatever he's called, and Bellucci. And just you know, you can't blame Kane. He's basically on his own, and he was just getting frustrated. Sterling wasn't in the game, not through any fault of his own, really. He just wasn't being given the ball, which I thought was just ridiculous. He's our best player. He's, you know, and I just thought that the tactics of Southgate was completely wrong. Instead of being attacking, we were just so defensive. We were so defensive. And the best form of defense is attack. Yeah. And that's it's not what we did. So yeah, to me, he got it. He's had his tactics spot on every game up until the final.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, again, I mean, we should give Mancini some credit. He made a couple of substitutions, didn't he? I think he took off. He put on Cristante and Bernadetti. I think just after half time, and that's where it seemed to turn. And Chiesa gave us problems all across the park, didn't he, Nick?
Yeah, I don't really think, I'm not going to give Mancini too much credit. I don't think Italy were particularly good. I don't think the subs were that good. I just think we played into their hands and we just didn't go at them at all. We should have gone at them straight away after we'd scored that first goal. And then I think what apart from the tactics and the game plan of Southgate, he completely got all of his subs. He got his subs wrong, totally wrong. He didn't bring players on at certain times I mean, Grealish should have been on half an hour earlier. No question. He's our weapon, and he just wasn't brought on early enough. And you know, I'm not going to give Mancini that much credit. I think he's a good manager. He's done very, very well. He's got his tactics right. But you know, I don't think Italy. I thought Italy weren't that good. I thought they were quite poor actually. We were just we kind of, England kind of got beat by themselves in a way.
Dion. Let's go to the very end. I hate talking about it, but the big talking point is should those three players have taken those penalties? One, because Rashford and Sancho had not had a kick coming on, and should a 19-year-old boy have taken the third penalty?
No, absolutely not. I think the whole of the world would agree with me, let alone the whole of England. First of all, I don't think we should have even got to penalties. We should have tried to win that game in the extra time. With the players that we've got that can come on, the squad we've got, we had a much better squad than the Italians. Like we did against Denmark, win it in extra time. And it should never have got to penalties.
Who would have you brought on in extra time?
How many subs had we made by then?
We at that point, I think Henderson for Rice. I think we had Saka. Saka came on for Trippier in the second half.
That was actually a good sub because you could see he had Chiellini in his pocket. You saw what Chiellini had to do. He had to grab him at one point. To me, that was disgusting.
Yeah,
that's a red card all day long. Even though in the letter of the law it isn't. I think it's the most unsporting way of doing anything in a game of football. That what he did there,
yeah,
disgusting,
appalling, wasn't it? I mean,
Yeah, absolutely.
And of course, Grealish probably that tackle by Jorginho, he should have been off for that. That was a red card.
A red card all day long. How VAR could not look at that and see how that was dangerous play and upgrade that yellow card to a red card. I've seen it happen all last season with VAR in the Premier League. They were upgrading yellow cards to red cards, and rightly so, because it was dangerous play. That guy's shin could have been broken. He could have been out for the season or worse, career threatening. You watch it again. I don't know how VAR didn't see it and didn't do anything about it. I don't understand it. I'm not saying that we might have won the game, but it would have been a big factor with them having 10 men.
Yeah,
disgraceful. Again,
Nick, these would have been the other choices for penalty takers. You could have had Sterling. You could have had well, assuming that Rashford and Sancho didn't come on, you could have had Kyle Walker. You could have had John Stones. You could have had Luke Shaw, and your boy, you could have had Calvin Phillips. I think that covers everybody. Who would you put ahead of those three?
Well,
Pickford even.
Yeah, I mean, funny enough, I thought about that myself. First of all, I would have definitely had Luke Shaw because he was on a roll. He's got a good left foot. Yeah. He'd already scored. He was already confident. I'd have had definitely had Luke Shaw. I probably would have had John Stones because I'm sure he can take a penalty, and he's not like one of those. He's not like an old-fashioned centre half defender who can't kick a ball. He's articulate in the way he passes the ball. I'm sure he would have scored or would have had a good chance. And then probably, I mean, Sterling. I mean, although Sterling's missed quite a few penalties, I think, for Man City, I still would have given it to Sterling. I still think he would have scored. The three players I wouldn't have given him to would have been Sancho, Saka, and maybe Rashford, but certainly the other two I've just mentioned, Sancho and Saka. I wouldn't have let him take a penalty
because Rashford is the best penalty taker in training for England, so you sort of get that. But yeah, I mean,
he scored goals, important penalties as Rashford for club and country. So, and he's more of an experienced player. So Rashford was definitely a correct decision to, he's a centre forward, he's a forward, he scores goals, definitely Rashford. But the other two, Saka and Sancho.
Yeah,
I mean, none of them. I mean, the penalties were extremely poor. But it doesn't matter who's taking a penalty. You put your foot through it, and none of them put their foot through it. I'd rather have had Pickford would have put his foot through it. It may have gone over the top, but it'd have certainly smashed at it. And that's what you need to do in penalty shootouts, and not give the keeper a chance.
With a bit of conviction,
the hesitation that Rashford showed, you almost knew at that point. I mean, and Donnarumma didn't fall for it. He stayed his ground. Brilliant goalkeeper. I mean, did you hear that Donnarumma has saved 68% of penalties against him? That's just insane. Wow. I don't know what other keeper has got that. So give him some credit as well. But I mean, you knew when Rashford was coming up and that stuttering, and Donnarumma had none of it. As you say, he should have just smashed it.
He did send him the wrong way. I mean, he
did send him the wrong way. You're actually right. I'd stand corrected. Yeah.
He just should have put it. It was there. The goal, the whole half of the goal was open for him. And he's put it wide.
Yeah, no, you're right. And whether that was distraction, but of course, I do stand corrected on that. Donnarumma did go the wrong way, so he had it, waiting for him.
I'm very surprised at who Southgate, chose for those penalties and in the order of them as well. I'm very, very surprised at that. I mean, I know players volunteer as well, and he also asks them.
I forgot Grealish as well, by the way. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, Grealish all day long, you would have had him take a penalty. But I just, players like Rashford have not played at all hardly. He's had hardly any game time. I still probably wouldn't have had Rashford ahead of most of them. I mean, it's easy to say now in hindsight, but I think he just got them wrong. It was just I think
it was the order of the penalties. I think I don't mind Saka and Rashford and Sancho taking a penalty, but maybe when it becomes sudden death, get your best penalty. Always get your best penalty takers on the board. You had Harry Kane, then you can get Sterling, Maguire as well. I was always confident Maguire could score because, like,
I mean, I agree with Nick. I mean, Shaw, I don't.
Shaw,
he was on
Sterling, you know, definitely. Get
Players who are confident, and also players who are a little bit more experienced. I mean, Luke Shaw's not 17 or 18 or 19 years of age. It's a big weight on your shoulder, to, you know, for them to do that. And you know, also somebody like Sancho, who hasn't had a lot of game time. He's had a bit of game time, but not a lot. Just to bring him on and let him take a penalty in front of, you know, 500 million people watching it is a big thing.
I mean, him and Rashford were they weren't even, the muscles weren't even warm. They'd literally come on and they hadn't even kicked a ball properly.
Yeah.
This didn't make sense whatsoever.
Yeah, let's just get a couple of other things about sportsmanship. I have brilliant friends in Italy. I admire a lot of things about their football. Their passion is definitely equal to England's in the country. But I got a lot of people messaging me how unsportsmanlike England were, not to pick up their badges properly, their medals, and then taking them off. So on that, I just want to say, no player who comes runners up in a tournament keeps them.
They never do.
They all take them off. They all take them off. That's you know, look at any World Cup, look at any Euros. That's nonsense. The other criticism was that the fans left the stadium early instead of waiting for the ceremony. Will you show me any fans of the losing team who stick around and wait for a medal ceremony? I think that's just ridiculous. I mean, it's not, you know, your team is just lost. You're heartbroken. You want to get out of the stadium as soon as possible. It's not an ice skating competition, you know? And again, any fan of any country, you see them leaving when their team is beaten. And I would again draw my friend's attention to Euro 2012. Spain were 4-0 up. They beat them 4-0. By the last 20 minutes, half of the Italian fan support had left the stadium. So I just want to clear that up. And I do want to say something else about being magnanimous in victory. And again, I want to say Italy, and I do want to say Italy were probably the best team in the tournament. I'll give them that credit, and I think I've no problem the fact that they won the tournament. I think probably that's fair, and I think they probably were. But when you win and you pass a child, basically a 19-year-old child who has just missed a penalty, and Bonucci in particular, I'm going to name, comes streaming past and then abuses is too strong a word, but really makes some quite nasty gestures towards the England fans behind the goal. You know, maybe even some equivalent of hand 4-letter gestures. I just do not believe that the England team would have done anything other, if it were in Rome, than run up to their own fans on the other side of the ground. I thought completely that was pretty seedy and pretty lowbrow to do that, and totally unnecessary. And of course, it enraged the England fans. And, you know, I think Bonucci in particular, who's already got a bit of a bad reputation, not to mention some racist comments he's made. I think, you know, he should have a long, hard look. He won't, because of the type of character he is. But, and this isn't sour grapes, but I think it's important to identify being magnanimous in victory, being honourable in victory, you know, especially when the pain and the heartbreak inflicted is so great. You know, Chiellini, I'll give some credit to. He went over to Harry Kane afterwards and commiserated with him. I didn't see Bonucci go over to any England player and do that. And I'd love to put one up Bonucci if he's still playing at the World Cup. I just thought, what are your thoughts on that? I was pretty outraged by that.
I totally agree completely with everything you say there. Absolutely.
Nick, did you see it? Because I was close down to the goal.
No, I'd left by then. I left the ground straight as soon as he'd missed the penalty. Saka, I'd gone, so I didn't see any of it. But you told me about it, and I believe it. I completely believe it. Even if you didn't tell me about it, even if it wasn't true, I'd still believe that, because it's the kind of thing he would do. He is that kind of a character, and Italy were like that. I don't think they were. I think they were you know, listen, you don't have to be nice in football, but you have to be sporting like.
Yeah.
They certainly weren't sporting like at all. You know, they'd have had a lot more respect if they'd have gone up to Saka and put their arm around him and commiserated him, and you know, then go and celebrate with the fans. But to go and just waltzing past him and then go straight over to the England fans, like you're beating the England fan. You know, they haven't beaten the England fans, they're beating the England team. So you go and speak to the England team, and you be sportsman. Like, you don't go over to the opposition fans to dance with them. And I mean, that's just why
wrist gestures at the fans. I mean, I found that really below the belt, to be honest. And you know, let's hope we put one on over him if he's still playing, because I think the one thing I would say is that, and this brings me to my next point, is that, you know, Italy's team, this is probably that particular team's, you know, not era maybe, but their time is over. Chiellini and Bonucci, I mean, how much longer can they go on for? It's a slightly more aging team that I don't think, I mean, don't say anything, but I cannot see them going on winning the World Cup. Whereas let's look forward with England. Got a tremendously young team. We've had some amazing discoveries. You know, Phillips, revelation. Shaw, brilliant. You know, and then the youngsters. You know, Foden, Mount. Just great potential. And with the World Cup only a year and a half away, I mean, surely looking at the positives, they would have learned so much from this. And they're still so young, and surely the future is brighter for this young England squad than it would be for an aging Italy squad. Who wants to pick up on the future for England?
I think it's a great future, but you just don't let them get to penalties, because we can't win penalties competitions in crucial games. We've done it once, I think, with the Colombia game out of, I don't know, 6 penalty competitions or whatever. I think we've got some great players. We've got some great youngsters coming through. All those guys who miss penalties are all very good players. And, you know, in open play, they're excellent if they're played in the right way and given game time, not 5 minutes here or 10 minutes there. So I think for Qatar, we're going to have a very good squad if we can keep them all fit. And there'll probably be some more additions up until then. Just going back to Italy, what you were saying, yeah, I mean, I think their time. You're going on about how they deserve to win the tournament. I don't think they were that great at all. The whole tournament, I thought they were okay, and obviously they're unbeaten in 30 odd games, so that is pretty incredible. But I don't think they're a particularly great side.
I do think you've got a point. They were brilliant in the group stages, but then they struggled, didn't they, against Austria? They did well against Belgium. I don't
think they've been so great at all. I think to be honest, I think we've had better performances in this tournament than they have. You know, I think they've been very, very lucky in games. Very lucky. Okay. So I'm not going to.
Sorry, Nick, if you need to finish. Okay.
No, I'm fine. That's fine.
On the future, you know, 2 semi-finals, now runners up. Obviously, win the World Cup is the next step.
Well, exactly. If it was so simple, that'd be great. We have progressed, and you know, if we just keep doing what we're doing, then there's no reason why we can't go to the World Cup being confident. And it's good that it's only a year and a bit away, year and a half away, not even that. That's what we want. We don't want it being longer than that. So I suppose the whole COVID situation, bringing the tournament, you know, back, you know, a year, it might work for us in a way. So yeah, the future's looking good. I think we've got a good year and a half to learn to take penalties. Maybe we need to start practicing penalties every day up until that World Cup. Every single day.
I hear you, but you know, Roy Keane was saying afterwards that you can, and then Southgate has. I mean, he's made the walks longer. He's put the loudspeakers on with booing, you know, in the training pitch. But no matter what you do in that environment, you just can't replicate it, you know, and just. I don't know what the answer is. Hypnosis is the only.
Yeah, the answer is the answer is very simple. Put the ball in the corner and boot it as hard as you can. It's very, very simple. Put your laces through it. That is what you've got to do. Yeah. None of these stupid running up. You know,
hesitate.
hesitating and trying to put the key, give the keeper the eyes and putting them the wrong way. Just put your head down and put your boot through it.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, in games where it doesn't matter, like the Nations League penalty shootout against Switzerland. I mean, I think England scored 9 out of 9. And it's just because they didn't feel the importance, they didn't feel the weight of the occasion, and I think Southgate's been brilliant in some ways about getting them in this team spirit and not too overawed, and keeping them all close. I mean, he's done some amazing things to
I think if Stones would have taken a penalty or Sterling or Shaw, and if they would have been the ones who were missed the penalties, then you'd have hold your hands up and say, all right, there's not much more you can do,
right?
Because they're the experienced players. They're the experienced players, but to let all those young kids take penalties in such a crucial, it's not a semi-final, it's not a quarter-final. This is a final of a major competition.
And it was added pressure because they were
pressure.
Wembley. They were at the home. It was like a home game. So there was even more pressure because it was like a home game with all the England fans. 40,000 England fans.
Well, and right in front of the England goal, it probably worked.
Yeah,
them,
it was even more pressure for them.
I mean, I think as well, we don't want to be too harsh because hosts do not win their own tournaments, generally speaking. I mean, Portugal were stunningly beaten by Greece, and France were stunningly beaten by Portugal in the same tournaments. Holland in 2000, brilliant team, were knocked out in the semis. Germany at the World Cup, knocked out in the semis. It doesn't mean that perhaps we shouldn't have gone on to win it. But
Brazil 2014.
It can be. I think it only takes you so far. But when you come up against the ultimate pressure, which is probably a semi and a final, I think that is an argument that it might work against you. Nick, I mean, what do you think about that? It's not always...
nonsense, absolute nonsense. I don't believe in any of that at all. In fact, I think it absolutely I think having our fans of there has been like a 12th man on the pitch. I think that the semi-final and the final is obviously more. There's more pressure on you, but I actually think in that semi-final against Denmark, I think that having the support make a big difference.
Yeah.
And the final this time around was we were just a little bit unlucky. It just didn't go for us. We didn't play particularly well, but we got a lot of things wrong. And I don't think it was anything to do with the crowd or the pressure. And anything can happen on penalties. It's just luck. A lot of the time, it's just luck with penalties. But you've got to give yourself you've got to give that luck a bit more of a chance by picking the right penalty takers in the right order and giving yourself a chance. Which was, we just didn't do that, and we were up against it
a bit better.
We didn't. It wasn't the best of game management. Correct. It wasn't. Yeah. The tactics weren't there. The formations weren't there. The subs weren't there, and the penalty takers weren't there. Yeah. And that combination was the reason why we lost the game.
Yeah. I mean, let's just touch upon it. It's the nasty side of things. I mean, the two things that I didn't really want to talk about, but they are so prevalent in the news today. I mean, first of all, I mean, it almost doesn't even, giving it any time almost is sort of something I didn't want to do. But the comments afterwards, the racism that ensued after the 3 black players missing. I mean, are there big enough words to condemn how disgusting and scurrilous they are? I mean, how can people be like that?
Absolutely deplorable what's gone on, and we just don't seem to learn from it. But it's not all the England fans doing it. Most of England fans, are right behind them in terms of and support them, whether they miss a penalty or whether they don't.
Good point. And I think it's a good point you just made, because a lot of the accounts have been traced back, believe it or not, to Eastern Europe. The tweets originated from. So let's not. There's despicable there was despicable comments made within England too, and there have been some arrests made. But apparently, I mean, this is what the police have said, is that there are plenty of them have come from abroad as well, and they traced quite a few of them to Eastern Europe.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is it's a very small minority who when they condemn these players of missing a penalty or the no good, the rubbish, this or that. It's only a few of them who then resort to the lowest of low of down to racism. Most of even if you're a Liverpool fan and you don't like Rashford because he plays for Man United, even most Liverpool fans, 99% of them would never even consider thinking about it's anything to do with the colour of his skin. They just don't like him because he plays for Man United.
And you know that's very, very good point, and illustrated by the wonderful number of people who came to after Rashford's mural was defaced, how quickly hundreds of people of every creed and colour came to cover it with just beautiful, you know, words of encouragement, you know, words of praise and words of love, you know, which was great to see, which just completely smothered the awful remarks that had been made by the people who defaced it. I mean, Dion, should the social media companies be held to account more?
Completely. I mean, that's what really brings us on to it, because it shouldn't take this amount of abuse for the social media companies to be doing things like this. Should have been done a long time ago. It shouldn't get to this point where people can still do it and get away with it. I just can't believe it, that it's still. I know they've been having meetings today, and supposedly in Parliament they've said that the social media companies will be getting fined, I think 10% of their
revenue.
Of their global revenue. I don't think that's enough. I think more. I mean, they've got to start doing ID checks for people wanting to open a Twitter account or a
like
Facebook.
banks do. Yeah.
Surely, then no one's got anything to hide then, because you are who you are, and if you do make a comment, you're accountable for it. You can be found, you're accountable for it.
Yeah.
But that's not being. They've discussed it, but they haven't actually implemented it. That's got to be surely the next step. Where
you're right. I can go and right now in 5 minutes open a Twitter account in any name. I could put a VPN on to stop people seeing where I'm coming from, and I can go and abuse anybody I want. And that is a big problem. And you know, and words matter, and words can be devastating as well as, you know, great and encouraging sometimes. You know,
I just wanted to say something, Lee. I think the other thing is what we're forgetting is before this tournament and this whole racism thing. If you remember, if you go back to 1998 to the France World Cup, I think what a lot of the time is, unfortunately, we're not very good losers. England fans, we're not very good at losing. We don't like losing. I know we're used to it, but we don't like losing. And we've always got a scapegoat when there's an issue. And if you go back to France 98, Beckham gets sent off with Simeone in the Argentina game in the last round of 16. And all of a sudden, everybody wanted, the whole of the country was against Beckham. It was all over the newspapers. Everybody wanted to kill him. There was, I think somebody had hung him, a caricature of him on a pub, you know, wanted to noose him, all different things. Everybody was against him. And it's just the same now with what's happened with these three players. But unfortunately, because they are black, because they're black, you know, you've got all these idiots who now jump on, you know, who use that against them.
I mean, unfortunately, I do think there's some very serious problems with racism still in the country, and there are a lot of people who do tend to go for the lowest common denominator, which is the colour of their skin, which is awful. And I would just say one thing, which is that although the England fans club in particular, has become more diverse, the majority of the fans behind the goal were still white males. That is a fact, and I think there is a case to be made to make the real you know, dedicated and faithful England fans. I would love to see more, you know, people of colour in that.
I actually don't agree with you. I actually think for more of a period. No, I mean, I actually think from going on a lot of these trips and stuff, you know, there's been plenty
I
of.
understand that, but there is still, you only need to stand in the stands, you know, bit behind the goal, and there are it is very much still white and male, but it has improved
Again, and I'm going to reiterate it. I think it seems to be more apparent in these other, you know, Eastern European countries where we're seeing it.
100% agree. You know, I'm saying just purely on that, and to your point, what was one of the most amazing songs I've ever heard was in that Bulgaria game, and the England fans, you know, who again still majority white, but that one of the songs I'll never forget was who put the ball in the back of the racist net, Raheem effing Sterling. I just applauded that. You know, that illustrates your point. One final point, have England endangered their a bid, which supposedly is going to happen for the World Cup in 2030, by the security problem that Dion, you know, it's in the news. I think the facts of the situation are much better covered in the news. Does it worry you, or do you think that when things have died down, it shouldn't be in consideration if we do bid for the 2030?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it doesn't look good, but I don't see it being a problem. I mean,
you saw some stuff, didn't you, Dion?
Yeah, it was. I mean, even just getting to Wembley Way was. I've never seen anything like it. Nick was with me. The streets were lined with a river of. It was like walking down slums. It was a disgrace, disgusting. Cans, broken glass, slush. It was just disgusting, and that's down to not having enough, you know, stewards, policing, whatever it may be. I don't think they expected the amount of people to converge in that area, and there must have been 3 times the amount of people it should have been there. There must have been, you know, a good 130,000 people there, where really there was going to be 60,000 people going. So in effect, it worked against them, not allowing the full capacity of 90,000 people being there, because they were all outside the ground, even closer together, because they're all drinking and doing God knows what else they were doing, lighting the flares, climbing on statues, climbing on shops and stuff like that. So in fact, for the whole COVID situation, I think it's worked much worse than if we would have had the full capacity allowed. There would have been a bit more order, and I bet you the cases will be much higher than what it would have been if we had 90,000 people going in.
It seems completely illogical. Yeah, it seems
But
completely illogigical on hindsight now. If you're going to have 60, 65, you might as well just have 90, because everybody was.
But to your point about should it affect our bid? No, it was a one-off. We haven't seen that in any of the games. There were small pockets of it in the semi-final. A few people jumping over, jumping through, but they were nothing like what happened in the final. That was a one-off. It was terrible, but we'll learn from it. We've got the infrastructure here and the amount of police and stewards to you know, keep everything secure if we did, you know, have a bid, if we did host a World Cup. Absolutely 100% confident that anything like that wouldn't happen again. I just think we were a bit the authorities underestimated what was going to happen.
I actually disagree on that. I actually think we will. I don't think that looks good for us at all. I actually think that they could use that against us, and I think it will affect the bid. So I actually completely disagree with that.
I mean, who knows? I mean, maybe, you know, after the COVID period is over, we might have some hindsight. But Nick, you know, you may well be right. And maybe it's too early to ask this, but what do you think your abiding memory of this? I mean, it has been an amazing tournament, maybe the best. You know, we just got out of it, and I think it's easy to say this was the best ever. But you know, looking at
I think
your abiding memory of Euro 2020, Nick.
Well, I think from an England point of view, no question, it was the Germany game for me.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think the other memory as a tournament was, unfortunately, was when Ericsson was taken ill. I think that was even more of a memory than anything else over football.
Yes.
But as a football point of view, from England, I think it was certainly the Germany game more than anything, even more than the semi-final, because it was Germany, and it was the first time we'd beaten them, I think, since '66 in the knockout game. So for me, for football reasons, that, and then equally was the Ericsson scenario.
Two really good points. Dion?
Again, the same. I agree with Nick. It was the Ericsson. What happened there? I was watching that game, and it was surreal. And obviously, the Germany game was, one of my sort of great memories. And obviously, you have to say, the fact England got to the final. I don't think actually anybody expected England to get to the final before the tournament. So, all right, I know we haven't won it. We've got to a final. We've actually progressed from the World Cup because we've got to a final. The key is now can we surpass that? So, we've got to a final. We haven't won it, but it's an amazing achievement to get to the final.
I think that's a really good point. I think, when we look back, the progress that's been made, 2016, Iceland, if you'd given me this in 5 years from then, I would have laughed my head off, because it was just absurd that something would happen. Guys, Goldster and Goldster Jr., thank you for being here during the tournament. Thank you for sharing the tournament. It's, I said before you two came on, it wouldn't be the same without you two. It's been brilliant. I think we'll look at this 4 weeks as some of the greatest times of our lives, and I'm glad that you boys were there. As I say, just you had to be. Who else would have made it as great as it was? So thank you both very, very much. Qatar is only a year and a half away, as you both said, even less than that. And bring it on. And brilliant, lads. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gadsby.
All right, I'll see you both. I'll see you both soon. Well, there we have it. Thank you all as well for tuning into Gadsby's England. Thank you for reading whatever some of the stuff that has been written. Been extraordinary 4 weeks. We thought that Russia couldn't be beaten for the memories and the drama and the achievements of that team, but they've surpassed it, and they've given us so much, and we owe them a great debt. It's been an amazing camaraderie, an amazing spirit. They have shown to be wonderful young lads, and long may it continue. And Gareth Southgate, if he keeps going at this rate, I think England really have a chance of winning the World Cup. And me, I'm very, very sort of glass empty when it comes to England. Maybe I will be when the games come up, but I think England, with this squad, with this manager, constantly learning, constantly developing, I think you should all be really optimistic. We should be so proud of them. They came up short in the end, but they came up short by one kick, basically. And that's what the history will show. No matter what happened in the game, whether they weren't good enough, what they missed, what they lacked, they took it all the way to the final kick in a penalty competition. I hope you've enjoyed our coverage. These have to come down now. Let's all take a break. We need a big break. It's been exhausting and grueling in as much as it's been wonderful. But thank you again. Let's see this out. Bye, everybody.
Thank you for the days, those endless days, those sacred days you gave me. I'm thinking of the days I won't forget a single day, believe me. I bless the light, I bless the light that shines on you, believe me. And though you're gone, you're with me every single day, believe me. Days I remember all my life, days when you can't see wrong from right. You took my life,
Sterling looking to run.
then I knew that very soon you'd leave me.
Grealish, it's Kane.
It's alright, now I'm not frightened of this world, believe me. Those endless days, those sacred days.
They can even think about a semi-final. They have to conquer Rome. Kane, an early chance, an early England goal.
I won't forget a single day,
And it's
believe
Harry
me.
Maguire.
I bless the light, I bless the light that
Now
shines
Harry
on
Kane.
you, believe me.
Mounts corner. Headed in
And though
by
you're
Jordan
gone,
Henderson.
you're with me every single day, believe me. Days I remember all my life, days when you can't see nothing right.
Signage right in. I mean, it's a dreadful penalty. Who cares? He doesn't. Kieran Trippier could watch. I bet he wasn't the only one. Look at that face.
Thank you for the day. Those endless days, those sacred days you gave me.
Thick adventure.
Thinking of the day. I won't forget a single day, believe me. I bless the light, I bless the light that shines on you, believe me. And though you're gone, you're with me every single day, believe me.
Let that magic soak your spine. Bit of space for Kane. Trippier. Might come to Luke Shaw. Dante with the flick on. It's loose. He comes off the post. It's tucked in. Bonucci equalises. The whistle is blown. We go to extra time again. And it will be penalties.